Well, I'm very happy that you're launching and starting this initiative about the war of Sharia on women, because it's high time for us to face this topic, because it's everywhere. Everybody should be concerned about Sharia and women. Because the Muslim world now Islam is going, minority Muslims in Western Europe, in America, in Australia, and we are starting to see the impact of Sharia, officially or unofficially, impacting our lives. And it's really a time to speak openly about it, because if we don't do it today, 30 years or 40 years from now, our daughters will have to deal with a big problem.
It may be even faster than that. Nonie Darwish, you of course come from Egypt.
Yes.
You fled from a kind of Sharia program in your own world.
Absolutely.
You know firsthand what is involved here. Give us, in just the shortest of courses, what the implications for women are, were Sharia to actually be insinuated into our country.
Well, I fled the Muslim world. Many people come to America to find a job. The reason I came to America, because I really wanted to feel free. And I don't miss a day without thanking God for the freedom I had in America. And unfortunately, many Muslims who left the Muslim world do it for the same reasons. But unfortunately, there is a group of Muslims, especially in organizations, organized Islam in America, that followed us here and want to impose the same Sharia that we fled from on us right here in America. When I went to a mosque early on in America here, I was told, don't assimilate in America and wear Islamic clothes. In the 70s, when I was in America, in Egypt, I never wore Islamic clothes. Nobody. My mother never wore Islamic clothes. My grandmother never wore Islamic. And I said, why should I wear Islamic clothes in America? It doesn't make sense. I've never done it. They said, well, we have to go back to our Sharia, to our way of life. This is what they want us to do. And Egypt, lo and behold, has become very close to full Sharia.
Yeah, we're going to be talking with Cynthia Farahat in our next segment, and she's going to be describing what's happening in real time. But just on this point about the organized Islamic community,
yes,
how would you characterize how they have come to be the putative leaders of Muslim Americans, given that they seem to be at odds with, as you say, why many Muslims came here in the first place?
Wherever we go, Saudi Arabia finances mosques, sends groups to claim that they are our leaders in America when they are really not our leaders. Their membership is probably maximum in a couple of thousand, like CARE, for instance. But the vast majority... This is
the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE. Yep.
Exactly. And most Muslims in America don't want to be affiliated with them. But they are pushing on our government and pushing in our educational system. They are pushing on our way of life. They are threatening us when we abandon Islam, when we leave Islam. We get threats.
Yeah. Tell us about that story. You spoke very passionately about an effort you had made to reach out to these hundreds of so-called leaders of the Muslim American community about apostasy and their attitude towards it.
We discovered Wafat Sultan and me and many other apostates or people who left Islam in America, who chose not to practice the religion, because we were all living in fear. Our civil rights will be threatened. Fatwas of death are being threatened with. So when a young lady by the name of Rifka Berry, a girl who's only 17, had to run away from home because her life was threatened, that was the day what we felt we have to get together, we have to come in public, we have to start a movement to secure our freedom and our
and what did you call it?
We called it FormerMuslimsUnited.org. And in it, when we launched it, we sent letters. It's almost a plea to all the Muslim organizations in America to please support us, support our right not to be Muslims or be atheists or be Christians, but this is the line that no religion should cross, which is kill those who leave it. And we ask them to support us, that they should condemn any laws that threaten our lives, our freedom, and our basic human rights.
And what kind of response did you get,
We sent
Nonie
it
Darwish?
to over 160 organizations, Muslim organizations. We only received back 2 letters signed. And this was from moderate Muslims who are reformists. And it was from Ali Ilyami and
Dr. Zuhdi
Jasser.
Yeah.
And nothing. The others just...
So you mentioned the Council on American Islamic Relations, the Islamic Society of North America, the International Islamic Institute of International Islamic Thought. I always get this confused. IIIT. None of these prominent so-called leaders of the Muslim American community would condemn apostasy.
It was an opportunity for them to prove that Islam that even though they disagree with us, they could have signed and mentioned that even though we disagree with what you believe now, we still will defend your right, your freedom to leave Islam or to convert or not practice any religion. They
or at least agree that you shouldn't be killed for doing that.
Exactly.
I mean, that seems a bare minimum. I said not condemning apostasy. It's not that. It's condemning the people who are trying to kill folks who actually leave Islam.
That would have been very good, in my opinion. That would have portrayed them in a very moderate way in America. But by totally ignoring us and not signing it, they really showed us where their hearts is.
It also says a lot, Nonie Darwish, about where we are as a country with organizations like these as the putative leaders of these communities who are, in fact, working for the other side. Exactly. They are the people who are trying to bring Sharia here.
And they are not criticizing any aspects of Sharia to the Muslim world. All their energy is to promote Islam as a moderate religion to the American people.
Right.
And not to where it's supposed to be.
Let alone moderating it. Our insights into how a country that is not Sharia adherent can nonetheless be subjected to this totalitarian doctrine.
Actually, I would even make a more bold statement and say that Egypt wasn't only not Sharia adherent. Egypt in the 20s and the 30s would be the sort of country that in today's political euphemisms would be called an Islamophobic country. At a certain point in time, we had the Minister for Education was Taha Hussein. Taha Hussein was known as an atheist, an apostate of Islam, and a blasphemous who wrote a book that is currently banned. So, and this was the Minister of Education. Not only that, we had our Minister for our internal minister and the head of the government that was democratically elected in the 20s, Saada Zaghlul, burnt the hijab in Tahrir Square in 1919 revolution, along with his wife and the Egyptian feminist Hoda Sharawi. And how did Egyptians react? They reacted with celebration and electing him to the government. So we were not, I don't think an American or European politician would go burning the hijab in Times Square and then people would cheer and elect him as the head of the government.
Okay, so that's where things started in the early part of the last century.
At the time, no one thought.
Has it changed over time
it
prior to what's happening at the moment?
It happens because since the infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood to Egyptian military in the 1930s and 1940s, and perpetrated the 1952 coup d'etat, which we discussed before. But what happened was they have Sharia law does not always have to be brought about by jihad and armed war. That's not the dangerous part. I'd rather have jihad any time of the day than the stealth methodology of the mode of operation of the theology or the jurisprudence of gradualism. This is not a term I invented. This is a term, the gradualism, it has been discussed by Khairat al-Shatir, who is the strategist for the Muslim Brotherhood and a former candidate for presidential candidate.
Right.
Khairat al-Shatir, when he discussed gradualism, he said something that a lot of Americans that have their good hearts in the right place, that want people to live happy, is to have their Sharia court here for family affairs. But what Khairat al-Shatir said, the gradualism works that you target a person in a family, and then he subjugates the rest of the family to comply to Sharia law in matter of domestic affairs, and that's only a step. And this is conscious.
And then he goes on to try to get the surrounding community.
But this is conscious, because I have plenty of Muslim friends. Most of my friends in Egypt are actually Muslim. They're not atheists and not Christians, and none of them would ever attempt to do something like that if they live in a country in America, although they dream about what you have and they want to bring it there. So when a person decides to institute Sharia law domestically, this is part of an Islamist, political, well-organized, well-funded movement, and it's not a random act. And then it starts to advance to cultural centers, universities, and we can, of course, see it, the Georgetown University display that absolutely shocked me in a way that it looked like I was attending an event at some of the Muslim Brotherhood-controlled institutions in Egypt.
Well, you were actually attending an event by a Muslim Brotherhood-controlled institution in the United States, Georgetown University's Al-Walid bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, as I recall. Cynthia Farahat, you are, of course, not Muslim yourself, or a former Muslim, as was Nonie Darwish. You were a Coptic Christian, but you were part of the secular, community and movement in Egypt. You've confronted this pressure, this what they call civilization jihad from the gradualists of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now that you're in the United States, apart from the Al-Walid bin Talal, a Saudi prince who's very generous, funding Muslim Brotherhood-related activities, what else have you seen in this country that raises alarms for you, specifically with respect to Sharia's war on women, that we should be alive to?
Actually, what I've seen is that their American feminism is not very different than Islamism in Egypt.
That's absolutely bizarre.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm not
feminist would be the antithesis of, the Sharia program.
Islamist, as far as I'm concerned, that's
How so?
Islamist. When you have a feminist like the leader of the third wave of feminism, like Naomi Wolf, I was co-authoring a book back in Egypt about freedom of women, and I dedicated a chapter to the war of American and Western feminists on the subjugated and oppressed and destroyed women of the Middle East. Because when a person like Naomi Wolf writes that she felt free under the hijab, which is a unified costume for a slave, when she felt free under slavery, that's an insult. That's an insult to everything we should stand for as decent human beings.
We certainly are finding very, very infrequent help from these feminists to women who, like yourself, come here warning of Sharia. Phyllis Chesler, one of the very few feminists who has actually come up on the net in a positive way on this, has called the burqa a mobile prison. What is it that's going on, as best you can tell, that has caused the vast majority of these feminists to look the other way, or worse yet, in some manner, as you say, actually enable this kind of Sharia penetration into our country?
I think the most dangerous notion right now is the political correctness. That's a form of a stealth war against America and American exceptionalism. And that has been started, to my knowledge, by a lot of people that were close to the Soviet doctrine or communism. So I think political correctness is the root of all evil. That you cannot call the enemy your enemy for what it is. So I think that America is going to go through a very dangerous road to fascism, but do it very elegantly.
And incrementally and gradually, as they say. Cynthia Farahat, we're going to have to leave it at that.